Thank you very much. I think let's start. I think Satoshi will maybe join us just now. It's an honor for me to be on the stage, especially moderating a panel that's so dynamic and from so many different parts of the talent pipeline in this whole ecosystem. So I'd like to start. I'm not going to be able to do justice to each of you in introducing you, so I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves and maybe just tell us what talent means from your perspective. Sarina.
Now, can you hear me? Yeah, great. So, hi, thank you for having me here. Thank you, Christophe, and the whole team of Africa Arena. So, I'm Sarina. I come from Plug and Play in Morocco. So, Plug and Play is an accelerator and a VC, an accelerator from Silicon Valley, and we have more than 45 offices across the world. We do 3 things: acceleration programs, venture capitalism, and open innovation with more than 500 companies across the world. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here. And to answer to your second question, talent. Talent comes from extollere, which means in Latin to raise up. So really talent, it's not something that's inherent to people. It needs to be raised up. So like you can have talent, in something, but ultimately you need to work on it. There's no Mozart without like training. There's no Kobe without training. There's no Michael Jordan without training. And there's no Shari or any startup without training. So it's our responsibility to train them to become the talent that they are. Yeah.
Tapelo.
Can you hear me now? My name is Tapelo Masoko. I am Chief Investment Officer in Edge Growth Ventures. Edge Growth Ventures is a GP, a venture capital firm out in South Africa. We manage a number of funds, typically making seed to Series A round investments, have made investments in technology companies across a number of areas within that, in health tech, fintech and insurtech, which is quite strong in South Africa, marketplaces and SaaS. So we are also currently, all of those have historically been within South Africa, and we are here, or I am here, specifically because we were busy raising our first Pan-African fund, and really good to be involved in the ecosystem north of our borders. So what does talent mean to me? Actually, first of all, my wife is in human resources. She's a talent acquisition specialist. So funny enough, whenever we talk about work, we'll end up talking about this a lot. But I just want to make 2 points. One is that, actually related to what Sarina was saying, I think talent is a myth. That's what they say. When I read books, talent is a myth. It really does come down to this 10,000-hour rule, at least more broadly. But more importantly, what I wanted to say, from a perspective of successful ventures, solving for talent is probably the most important critical success factor for all of us. And I think it is getting talent right is such a unifying problem for all of us to solve. There's us investors here, there's startups, there's ecosystem builders. All these organizations need to get talent right, and it is a very important topic. So that's my input.
Can you all hear me? No? Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you for the invitation. I am very happy to be in this amazing panel. For my side, I am Samia Shalbi. I will tell you my story because I have a real story since 1999 with the training and the incubation of talents. So let me present myself. I am a university researcher in computing science and creative technology. And I dedicated my university and academic research to social and open innovation in Africa. You will know why I dedicated my academic research to social and innovation, because I believe is the suitable model for us in Africa. But this model is talent-based and not student-based. Okay, we will know also after why it is talent-based. I want to highlight in this model 3 hashtags. That means talent-based for socio-economic impact, because talent should have impact on our ecosystem. For what? For growth and sustainability. And this problematic, or this state of art in my research plunged me in adventure. I am entrepreneur. I am social entrepreneur. I founded 3D Net-Info since 1999 because I believed in this constat, but also in the jobs that merge between creativity and tech, because I consider it's the base of innovation. And I am entrepreneur. I founded the 3D Net-Info since 1999. And I consider the school is my laboratory of experimentation and of research, because we are, as Tarek said in the previous panel, as African also, we should co-construct together, and we should innovate in terms of model. We don't have to copy-paste the model, but we should innovate in the model. After this experience of schools in 1999, this adventure pushed me in other adventure, because when we invest as entrepreneur in this kind of fields to train those talents, we are obliged to go to the ecosystem. I am president also of Tunisian Association of Creative Technology, because we learned from the ecosystem to find and to find the good and the suitable model. We should work with all stakeholders. Okay, and now I am manager of innovation via the Unique Living Lab in Africa, and this is the new concept which I am trying to implement and to export on Africa, because this model bring to us a methodology for to co-create and to co-construct. Okay.
So talent to you is very much a resource that needs to contribute to the economy and society.
Yes, and I want your question. This is for the story that I want to tell. But according to me, managing talents, it's to offer. That means offering to those talents training, accelerating, incubation, innovation, whatever programs that match with their potential, and also that cross their passion and also the international market needs. If you want to put hashtags in managing talents, we have potential, we have passion, and we have the needs, the market needs. This is what talent means for me.
Thank you. Satoshi, a quick introduction and what talent means for you.
Hi, I'm Satoshi. I'm running a VC fund called Kepo Africa Ventures, and now Berod Kepo Africa Ventures. I'm based in Lagos, and I have spent now 7 years in total in Nigeria. And our first fund was mainly focused on seed stage, with the total fund size of $80 million, of which we have already deployed. And now we are running a joint venture with Berod Capital, a Nigeria-based PE fund, and we are more focused on Series A and Series B. And we have achieved the first close a few months ago with $48 million. So we are now a bit bigger, and we started as a Japanese VC fund, but now we are multinational, running it with a joint venture with Nigerian company and having our colleagues from China, Nigeria, and Kenya. So hope this experience coming from very homogeneous island, Japan, and now working in a multinational environment could add more diversity to the argument discussion on the talent. And to your second question, I think from my high level, the talent is by nature very fluid, and also it keeps changing and it keeps growing. So I usually think it's a wrong idea to retain the talent. We need to align with the talent in the direction they want to grow and they want to change. And I think this is at the core when we create a team with new talents. We don't try to retain them, but we try to align with them.
That's a very interesting point. And I want to go to Serena. It reminds me of a story that you told me when we were talking before the event. As I see it, there's a kind of talent, or the world has a kind of a gravity for talent, and what we're trying to do is to build gravity in Africa and in our region to keep talent here. But you told me a story about how the experience of a young person and how they felt there's just no way for them here to have a fulfilling career and a sort of a place for them to really come into their own and have also a lucrative career. So if you can share that with us, and maybe also just say how you think we can start changing that.
Yeah. So first, I'd like to say that, as youth, we always, and it's a psychological thing, like we always say the grass is greener somewhere else. We always say, oh, I want to go and, explore. And that's great. We should be able to explore. And as Satoshi said, like, we shouldn't retain people. Like, when you love someone, let them go, okay? If they return, then perfect. And the grass is greener outside. You want to explore, good. But also there's in emerging countries, and I come from one, economies and developing economies, like, there's a reality is that there's saturation. There's a high, like a glass ceiling. At some point, like, there's disparities. And if you come from a low-income family, or you don't have privilege of having a network or contacts, or like contacts in banks or in like industry, like a lot of big industries, then you don't have the right internships or the right education or the right like international education. Then you don't get into the right places with the right revenues, and it's really hard. And there's no way that you can make it into the high salary that you want and the good quality of life that you want for your family when you want to have a family. So the story that I told you is one story, but there's so many other stories like that of people that want to do better for their kids, and so they go away. They go to Canada, they go to France. Sometimes they suffer a lot, and they just want to have their children to have a better future than they had, the life that they had, and that's fair, and I understand them. So how to change that, right? What to do? There's three things. There's, from a government standpoint, to respect the dignity of the people, to work, and I'm not talking about just Tunisia, I'm talking in general. I'm talking about Tunisia, I'm talking about Morocco, and they've been working on it. The king has been working on it. He's working on this big project right now on health, and we need to work on protecting the dignity of the people. You need to be able to treat yourself. I'm talking about like basic treatment, like health. You need to be able to afford treatment for yourself and your family, being able to sustain a life that's affordable. And what else? There's from a corporate standpoint, you need to be able to feel like you're valued. Your corporation needs to understand that their biggest resources are people, and they don't own us. We're a resource. They don't own us as people. We can go wherever we want, whenever we want. We're resources. We're an asset. We're not like a commodity. And there's one thing, this is one thing. Another thing is, from startup point of view, what we can do is like, okay, you cannot pay high salaries to your employees, that's fair. I understand you're a startup, like I know the startup word, but you can put in some other structures of benefit, like ESOPs, for example, or, try and like think about it. We were in the unconference before in Hammamet. It was amazing. Thank you, Christophe, by the way. And we talked about it, We talked about ESOPs. We talked about like other ways that they can benefit, like the employees from startup, from being more engaged and choosing this life over a boring corporate life. I'm sorry, guys, but like this, it has so much more impact and meaning. We're from a generation that understands that capitalism, pure capitalism, and pure like just working in big corpos, it's not effective. The 9-to-5 job is not effective. This is not what we want, especially with what we had with COVID. This is not what we want. The reality has changed. So we need to address that, and we need to understand that, and to move on. Now it's time to move on.
Can I come to Samir for a second? Like you mentioned before, you are making a work of building this ecosystem that basically, I think, addresses what Serena said now. And can you tell us a bit more about how you're going about that? What you're putting in place to create an environment that wants creatives specifically to stay and to contribute?
Yes, but I want to say it also, I am totally agree with Sarina. We should move on because after the COVID, retain talents, it not just let them in the country physically, but we are seeing actually the role of the diaspora, the African diaspora, and the impact of the African diaspora on the development of the country. And those talents also merged with the local talents will co-construct together for the growth of Africa. I will, for according to my modest experience, what we are doing from Africa to Africa, because all our model, we construct this from Africa to Africa, but inspired from the North country. We try to establish or to co-create a model, a pyramid. That means the North, South, South collaboration. And this is what we believe in this model. Nowadays, as you know, all young talents and after the COVID are exposed. And all the international program, training, incubation, acceleration, innovation are, if I can say it, are very, very sexy for those talents. Yes, and they have a lot of opportunities. So the main question for us, as member, as actor in this ecosystem, in training or in incubation and acceleration or in innovation, whatever our role, what we should do to be to propose a competitive programs to those talents. And our competitors are international competitors, are not just local competitors, okay? But by the other hand, we don't have in our ecosystem a fund and a program to support the innovation, this kind of innovation. We don't have. It's a reality. And we pushed our collaborative intelligence to find the solution. And for this reason, we are innovator, actually, because we encountered those constraints to think together, how could think together to jump those barriers and those constraints. For us, we approach leaders, international leaders like Autodesk and 3D technology and Epic Games, and NVIDIA, and to work closer those, to bring them to our community, to African community, to be connected to the innovation, directly to the innovation, to train the trainers. And by the other hand, they have a lot of program grants to support the world community. And we try to approach them to bring and to co-construct the community. And I will give you two examples. One, that, and the COVID pushed us also to find this kind of solution. In 2020, we started with, we managed 3D Africa Makers to teach, to train, and also to produce prototype around 3D printing for more than 6 African countries. This is the first experience. And from this program emerged a startup, an early stage startup, idea of startups. The two second are with EpiGames. With EpiGames, the first one is African Game Dev. This is a program to train and to help them produce a prototype, because we don't believe in the training as a training. We don't give a program, but training for production, for growth, for impact. Those are our hashtags and our keywords for the trainings. African Game Dev, supported by EpiGames, managed in 10 countries. And for the first time, because we are almost with French-speaking countries, and this program allowed us to go to the English-speaking countries. Okay, and emerged from this program a few startups. One of those startups, who is Kunta Content from Kenya, that emerged from this program, are actually supported by the leader, the international leader, Ubisoft. And this kind of success story, what we want to highlight, okay, to those talents, to the African talents, to be inspired from example from Africa to Africa. The last and not the least one is the Africa Metaverse Tribe.
Sorry, yes. I have to cut you off. We're running a bit short on time.
Yes, I finish with this. Okay. The Africa Metaverse Tribe, this is a program launched in June and will be closed in March. From this panel, it's an opportunity for all African community. We have more than 18 African countries who are participating to this program.
That's amazing.
Thank you, and sorry.
Let's jump to the other side of the talent sort of pipeline, more on the demand side rather than the supply side. Thapelo, it's often said, it's kind of a trite thing to say that investors back the founders and not the companies. I'd love to get your perspective as a fellow South African. How do you see the talent pool of startup entrepreneurs, especially South Africa, and what you can say about North Africa?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's very true. You know, when we're making investments, without a doubt, the biggest driver of a startup success is the founder, and that is the key part of the talent. In a way, when we're saying we're investing in startups or businesses, we're in fact investing in talent, being the entrepreneurs themselves. And what I would say to that question is that there is a lot of good talent I'll start with South Africa. There's a lot of talent. We made a lot of investments, a lot of successful investments with businesses that are locally founded, locally growing, and even growing outside of South Africa. I do think, though, that because venture capital is still a relatively early ecosystem across the continent, we have a lot of founders that are first-time founders of businesses, and some of these founders also, you know, as much as they might be good in certain aspect of the business, they're not good in everything. So I think when it comes to investment or even investing in founder talent from a fund manager perspective, it's very important to complement investments with appropriate post-investment support, to complement the the skills of the entrepreneur with additional support and the likes, and even access to networks, access to skills, and so forth. I do, and where I see a lot of mishap in the stage of businesses we fund, we invest in, being in seed to Series A, is that at that point we're investing in businesses that are actually starting to scale, and startup requirements in a business and scale-up requirements are very different. In scaling up, you're actually moving away from actually producing a product, but actually producing a business that is scaling and systematizing quite a lot of things. And that's one of the areas that we need to support some of the talent we have, entrepreneurial talent we have to grow businesses.
Thank you very much. Satoshi, you mentioned when we spoke beforehand that there's actually, I haven't thought about it before, but there's actually also a bit of a scramble for talent and competition for talent on the VC side. Are you at all concerned about the talent pool of investors in Africa?
So maybe it's against your perception, but we are short of the investors in Africa, and the salary level of the maybe investment associate for the VCs are going up very quickly. So it's the shortage of talents is not just for startups, but for the VCs. And we, as a quite young VCs, we really struggle to provide very high salary to the great talents. So that was where my definition of talent is coming from. So we cannot just give them the best of the best financial incentive to attract good talents. So what we want to provide to them is to help them to have their vision or their dream or their goal aligned with us. And once there is an alignment about the goal, you start to realize, so what I can do by myself. And I would find what I need from others to complement my own skill sets or my own experience. And I think that's how we can start to grow the team and attract different talents. And like I ask myself, why am I working with my two other co-founders? We are very aligned on the vision, but we have very different approaches toward the same goal. And I think this kind of diversity is not just like the outcome, or the diversity is not the goal itself. I think diversity is very important because once you're working with different people, you start to internalize their different perspectives or their different approaches. And this diversity is internalized, and you are now more equipped to achieve your goal or your vision. So this is a kind of dynamics I want to replicate in our team, and that's the kind of philosophical approach. And secondly, to the problem of the insufficient supply of the investors, we are now trying to educate and nurture and let them spin out from our own VC fund. So we have started to help the new VC investors to fundraise, to help them with back office functions and to share the deals. And we allocate them to the different market or the different stages of the investment. So we are taking both this philosophical or mental approach and this practical approach.
Thank you very much. We have to start wrapping up. Unfortunately, there's a lot of passion for the subject on the stage, and I think everybody would love to talk to you afterwards if anybody wants to approach them. Can we take a question or two? Any questions to the panel?
So this is an open question to anyone on the panel. So when it comes to talent, right, like I think the point that Serena made earlier about incentives for especially the Gen Zs and sort of younger millennials is there are a lot more things that incentivize them than just money. You can't lure smart people with just money. And she mentioned purpose, passion, flexible working hours, post-COVID, etc. But from a culture and an economic perspective, how can founders and VCs, so it's a two-part question, incentivize young people to enter this industry? Is there anything beyond ESOPs? Is there something around social validation? So for example, the fact that at a very prominent conference like this, we have folks under the age of 30 on panels representing their firms. I mean, as little as 10 years ago, if you had a tier 1 or tier 2 VC, you'd only have the partners on stage. Now we have young people under 30 on the stage. Maybe that is something intangible yet quite tangible in addition to financial incentives. So maybe some thoughts around outside of ESOPs, what is important to young people when they look at building their career in this industry?
Good morning. Yeah? You're ready to take off the mic. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sofiane. I'm from Algeria. I had an experience in IT back in Algeria, and it's getting really, really difficult to keep the talents, comparing them, because we have one of our competitors is freelancing international level, so the salaries are just not, they're not just at the same level. My question would be, if we simplify mobility, and I'm talking especially in the North African region, if we simplify mobility between all these countries, would that would be something interesting to develop at an international level, to hire in other countries, because there is also talents in the region. There are easy access, we have the same language, same more or less culture. So would that be something interesting to develop and to look for in the future? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for bringing that to the table. So I'll take the first and the next question and pass the mic to my friend Tapes and any other panelists if they want to answer to that as well. First of all, yeah, that what you said, Zach, is very relevant, because not only having young people and at Plug and Play, they trust us at a very early age to build offices and to develop activities, and obviously they train us, but we train ourselves. Like we train ourselves on the job every day, and it's not easy, but we train ourselves and we trust ourselves and we build ourselves at a very young age. And maturity comes with failure sometimes, but ultimately, startups, entrepreneurs here in the room, you know what it is, you know how it is. And I think another thing is diversity in the workplace in terms of like women and people of color and people from different backgrounds that live different lives. In our team, we have 2 Spanish, Blanca and Diego. We have 1 person from Lebanon. We have 1 person from Morocco, another girl, a woman like me, Wissal. So we're very different. All of us, we've lived different lives, and it clicks. And we produce value, as Satoshi was saying, where we have different we have same values, but we have different perspectives. We have different opinions sometimes, and we bring more things to the table. And going on to your second question, I don't know if you remembered yesterday, but the head of Smart Capital said something, Mr. Alaya, about working in the whole continent. On what Tunisia has been installing here, inviting startups from Africa to set up office in Tunisia and to get implemented into Tunisia. And I think all the countries should do that, but more importantly, North Africa, because we share culture, we share language, we kind of understand each other, even if your Arabic is way more pretty than ours. But yeah, we understand each other, the culture is the same, and we can work together. There's a lot of things to do, and we're skilled in the same areas: engineering, medicine, finance. We have the same kind of way of educating ourselves, and I think there's a lot to be done in that.
Quickly, I just want to make a point on your question, Zach, which is very important. Look, we compete with talent against large corporates in South Africa. It's a lot more predictable career paths, and also certainly in terms of incentives. So we can do the best we can, we'll just never pay as well as they do. And as a result, it's extremely, and this could apply for startups as well. So as a result, it's extremely important that you invest a lot of effort in building a very sustainable culture, a very good culture that can be a differentiator. Define your employee value proposition. People are driven, or knowledge workers these days are driven by autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And you need to build your employee value proposition around those things. And doing purposeful work is one of, I think, the differentiators we have, be it in VC or even in a startup. And I think you must leverage that. When we talking investment, we go through a lot of lengths to measure the impact we have through our investments. In South Africa, job creation is quite crucial. We measure that. Actually funding underrepresented founders is important. We measure that. And we ensure that as much as we're trying to create commercial value, we create impact value returns as well. And through that, we find that we're able to actually attract a lot of talent that could be even getting better salaries in other areas. And, when I left engineering and joined this path, I took a pay cut. But it was okay because I'm doing impactful work that I care about, and you therefore achieving that bit of, I think we made the point at the unconference, not work-life balance, but work-life integration through ensuring that you're doing work that aligns to your values. And that's what we have to do to be competitive.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the panel for your time. Like I said, everybody's passionate about the topic, and everybody will be around, I think, for at least the next bit of the program. So feel free to approach anyone and strike up a conversation. Thank you very much.